Hey everyone, I'm Victor Dwyer, and today is the Failures and Wins podcast, where we get latest founders, the latest people, and they talk about their failures, the wins they went through, the problems they got, and how they navigated them. And then we're going to go into some listing optimization, the best ways to kind of list yourself on Amazon and kind of go through them. Today I have Daniela on. She really knows her stuff when it comes to listing optimization. She has a lot of knowledge that she'll be able to spill for us. So she'll give us a little intro about who she is. We'll get to the failures and wins. And then from there, we'll dive into listing optimization. Daniela, thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'd love to get a little intro about who you are, how you got started in this whole Amazon mess. That's what I call it, Amazon mess, because it is a mess. So how did you get started in it? And I'd love to get an intro on you.
Sure. I'm the founder of mindfulgoods.co, where we support over 100 plus brands every year with listing optimization and storefronts on Amazon. We started about 5 years ago, actually, a full service Amazon agency. And after a couple years of realizing that we were doing everything and nothing well, I took a hard look at what it was that people really wanted from us and what it was in what we were offering that made people really happy. And one of those things was listing optimization. So now we purely focus on that. We create graphics, SEO, copy, photo shoots, video, anything that people need for their product pages and storefront. And it's become our zone of genius, I would say.
I feel like every business starts out saying oh, people will pay me for this, I'll do that. People will pay me to do this, I'll do that. And you're in a constant chase of trying to do everything, which means you're basically doing nothing at the end of the day, because you're trying to tackle so many different operations and systems and building that out. And eventually, once the business matures, they actually start to scale down the certain things they do well at, and they might get to that later, but they eventually fall on their cold piece, their bread and butter, and kind of going from there. As I feel like most businesses go through that.
Yeah, definitely. We had to niche down. As soon as we did that, our team became experts at our craft, and we've just refined our process over time and become really one of the top providers in the game at this point.
Yeah. And as a previous business owner, you kind of have to go through, as the entrepreneur, you have to really know your weaknesses and strengths within this process. For example, I'm horrible at copy. I'm very good at when it comes to communicating via text, I am a horrible communicator. It'll look if anything longer than 2 sentences, this is why you're a great listing optimization person and I am not. It's because I'm more of the graphic person, infographic person, but when it comes to actually trying to type copy and things like that, horrible communicator. But via video, that's where my strength is communicating via words and via video. That is how I communicate as a person. So during your entrepreneurial journey, did you find anything that were your weaknesses or were your strengths, and then you kind of navigated that? Did you ever find anything like that?
Definitely. So much of it. And it's also a combination of what brings you joy, right? So it's part of it is where's your natural skill set, and where of those skill sets, which ones are the ones that you actually find joy in doing, right?
True.
Maybe I can do PPC. Maybe I could get better at doing PPC, but do I want to be doing it day in and day out? Not really my cup of tea. And so that was one of the reasons why we decided to remove that as one of our services. But when it comes to creative, I feel like our team is just naturally suited to that. We intuitively love to dive deep and understand brands and their audience and try to make them stand out in unique ways with their content. So, all of those considerations were definitely in the mix when we were deciding to niche down. And, it was probably from the top down. It was where do I find my personal joy? And then how do I surround myself with people like me who also find joy in this particular thing? And surprisingly enough, a lot of our talent, they were creative directors for top tier brands, or copywriters for top tier brands, and they just never knew or had a pathway to transfer their skills for brands on Amazon. And so we're kind of helping train them up and just bring those skills into the Amazon world. And so the brands are benefiting because they're able to get top-notch talent that they wouldn't be able to work with otherwise unless they went to a retainer-based agency. And, you know, we win at the end of the day because we're helping these other women grow their businesses because they want to stay freelance.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. And you really hit the you really said something really interesting about doing something that you love rather than like not only what you're good at, your strengths are, but what your strengths are might not indicate with what you love on a daily basis. I had a friend
Mm-hmm.
yesterday that talked to me and he goes like, "Hey Victor, like my business is doing amazing, but like at the end of the day, like I'm dealing with fires every day and I'm miserable
Well,
at the end of the day because my business is doing so well that I'm just in constant fires going through all this crap at the end of the day." And I've talked to like hundreds of people saying like, "Hey, I can sell my business. I can keep going with it." He's gotten great offers so far. And
mm-hmm.
he goes like, I've talked to hundreds of people saying like, "Oh, you need to go with this option, go with this option. Like this one will make you the most money." And I was like, "Well, what's gonna make you the most happy?" And then he's go
Yeah,
and like he was like shocked. He was like, "Wait, I don't know. Like I've never like you're the first person that's asked me that." And then he really
yeah,
thought about it. And he goes, "Well, this one offer is like definitely going to be the way that I'm stay happiest. Is like basically
yeah,
like stop going with my business and go to another offer, and then like where they handle the operations and someone else does."
right.
And then he was like, "Wow." He's like, "Thank you, Victor." That was really
I
like
love
I've
that.
never been asked that before, and it really was an aha moment for him that like
Definitely.
because we in Western culture, in American culture, it's very normal to say like, "Oh, you got to be working hard, hustle, hustle, hustle. Just work toward the have that successful job, whatever it may be, and just like go down that successful career path." But
One of my
at the end of the day,
mottos,
like
you'll love
at
this. One of my mottos has
what?
become F the hustle. Because I just don't subscribe to that mindset. I did in my 20s. I was all about that. I'm
Mhm,
a former
mhm.
tech founder, and that was my life. I lived it. I ended up burnt
Yeah.
out in my early 30s, and I was useless for a period of over a year. And I learned my lesson the
Wow.
hard way in that. But have you read a book called Built to Sell?
I don't think so.
It's amazing. It actually teaches you how to build your business the way that you want to intuitively build your business, but it also trains you to build your business in a way that if you do want to sell it at some point, you can. And so
Mm.
while we've gotten offers at Mindful Goods, I'm very happy with the way that I've built this business. I built it around the lifestyle and the dream life that I want to live, and I have that now. So it would be very hard for me to sell at this point because of the joy that it brings me day to day,
Mhm.
because of the life that I'm able to live day to day. But because of that book, Built to Sell, it trains you how to prepare yourself so you have options no matter what.
That's great. Huh. Yeah, I'll have to watch that. I'm gonna put that in my notes. Built to sell. That sounds really
It's a
interesting.
great one.
So just so you know, I not only do I not communicate via words, I don't read. Like I've only read one book in my entire
I'm
life, which is
Audible.
probably
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. And
not
actually,
even
my
that. That's
whole
too long
team,
for me. If anything more than 200 words, I probably won't be able to finish.
my whole team actually does Loom videos, and mostly we started using Loom day to day because I'm I'm like on the spectrum of visual. I'm like extremely visual. So if someone's trying to
Mhm.
tell me something in like a Slack channel or a WhatsApp, I'm like I need more context. I don't understand. Like it takes me so long to get all the pieces that my brain needs. But
Yeah,
if you just show me a visual on the screen, I'm like, oh yeah, boom, do this, do that, do this, and I'm done.
yeah. Exactly. And that's exactly what I do. I just scale. I make probably 100 Loom videos a day about just communicating. Like that's how I communicate via across my entire channel, saying like, "Hey, can you fix this and this and this? Awesome, love you, thanks." And then like that's how, and I just go to the next one, and I just create 1 minute videos, and I just do that at
Yeah.
scale.
Wow, that's a
Um,
lot of videos every
yeah,
day.
it is, but that's how I communicate, and then it's a lot faster for me to just get things done that way,
Yeah.
and, that's worked really
Same.
well for me as a person. So,
I don't know
yeah,
what
I
people
mean,
did before Loom. Honestly, like how did people function at work before Loom? I have no idea.
yeah, I don't yeah, they would have to communicate we used to communicate only via, like, letters. That used to be a thing.
We need to be
And you don't
Loom
even want to see my
ambassadors.
handwriting. We
If
don't even want to
Loom,
talk about handwriting.
if Loom is watching this, we need like hoodies and hats and like all the gear. We are your super fans.
And by the way, I do not use Loom itself. I use ClickUp. ClickUp's like a way faster.
Oh, you
So
just
just
killed
so
it.
you know, it's a way faster version of Loom. So it's
Okay.
like where you can like it's like done, and then you can send it
Yeah.
out super fast.
We use
So
both. Actually, I've
oh
never used
really?
the ClickUp for video. I just use Loom for video, and we
Highly
use ClickUp
recommend
for
it.
project management.
Because Loom has like a period where it has to upload and then you have to wait for the sharing link and everything else. Within ClickUp,
Mm,
you get it within about 10 seconds. It like is the
mm,
max. It usually is around 1 to 3 seconds. Because when I create 100 videos, I can't wait for that like link and then wait to send it, yada yada yada. I need
yeah.
that link immediately. So ClickUp has the ability to actually like you record your video. As soon as you finish, it's basically done. You can grab the link and then send it out. It's really cool.
I love
So
that. Does it have
highly
folders
recommend.
like Loom?
Oh no! Once you lose the link, you lose it forever. So that's the only like. There's pros and cons. So if you want to go back and try to get that video, you have to go
No.
back to the link. So yeah.
See, I actually repurpose all of our Loom videos
Oh, okay.
that are educational. They go into mini folders for our clients that become like accessible, so that any client that works with us, they have videos categorized by, you know, how to send your inventory to Amazon, how to do this. So any question a client gives me, I answer it once, it goes into those folders, and they have access to it as like a VIP bonus option of working with Mindful Goods. And then we have another set of content that's like all of our mini audits that we're allowed to publish on LinkedIn, for instance, right? So we do
Yeah.
these like in-depth 5 to 20-minute mini audits of clients' listings. And if they give permission, we will share either snippets of it or the whole thing. So we have all of that content already organized, ready to go out.
Mm-hmm. So question for you: when it comes to you said something like you said about doing whatever you love the most within your
Mhm.
business. When it comes to building up your operations, obviously, like when you're starting an entrepreneur, you have to wear all hats within the company, like starting out, and then
Mhm.
eventually you grow to eventually have people that wears a different hat, so that way you're not wearing everything. How did you get to that point without burning out, without hating your life and things like that? Because
Mhm.
starting out, you had to wear all hats, doing the things you love, doing the things you hated as well.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that to get to the point where you love your business, what you do on a daily basis?
So one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, and so I've been through a program called TechStars where we had lots of amazing mentors. But actually, the best piece of advice that I ever got when I started this business was from my Aunt Carol. She's a successful entrepreneur herself, built a 50 million plus business in CPG and cafes. And when I told her I was starting this business, the one piece of advice she gave me was to hire the person who's going to replace me. And ultimately, at first, when I heard that piece of advice, I was like, I can't even afford that person. And so I immediately started shutting down the idea. And I realized, okay, well, I have to start where I am today. And I can't just shoot down this idea. And it's a great piece of advice because I did burn out in my last business. So, and I had 20 employees in my last business. I had lots of investors in my last business. I just wasn't operating sustainably as an entrepreneur and a founder. So I knew that I had learned that lesson and I had to do something different in this one. So I immediately hired who at the time was my virtual assistant. Uh, I actually worked with a few and found one that I really loved. She ended up becoming my project manager, my operations manager. She basically runs my entire company now. I cannot function
Awesome.
without her. My business cannot function without her. And now we're working on finding a replacement backup to her so that she doesn't get burnt out, and so she can actually, kind of have this kind of clear mindset that I do.
That's awesome. That's really smart. Yeah, it's once you train them up to that level, yes, but it's very difficult to find all those. There's a lot of skill sets that goes into that of like independence, competence, and like intelligence. Like there's a lot of things that goes into that person that would eventually have to replace you because there's a lot of variables in there to like how did you go through that process of hiring people, because hiring with this labor shortage right now, hiring is the most difficult thing to do right now for most entrepreneurs. So
Yeah.
what was your process that you went through to kind of find those A players, is what we call them,
Yeah.
to kind of find the best people out there?
That's such a great question. One is, first I had to realize that delegation is a skill as an entrepreneur, as a founder, right? So once I was able to realize how empowering it was to develop the skill of delegating, I think it's a cultural thing. I don't think it comes naturally intuitive to us as Americans. If we grow up in the States, our parents usually teach us how to be self-sufficient doers rather than delegators. And so the first thing in my mind is usually, how do I do this? How do I solve this problem? In other countries, the wealthy people are teaching their children how to delegate first, right? So my brothers grew up in a completely different country than me. Their first inclination is, who can I find to do this for me? They're not thinking, how do I get this done myself? They're thinking, who can I get this to do this for me? That's the first inclination. So that's the first thing, delegation. You have to learn that as a skill, or else you'll get nowhere. I'm like dead set on it. The second thing, in terms of hiring a team, I feel like I'm doing something that most companies are not doing. So I'm intentionally hiring independent creatives. I'm intentionally hiring freelancing females. I'm intentionally hiring women who are growing their own businesses. And I'm 1,000% okay that they're growing their own businesses alongside mine. In fact, I want them to grow. I encourage them to grow a big business alongside Mindful Goods. That's the mindset that I have as an entrepreneur. I don't want to take direction from anyone else. I intuitively want to operate my own business. And I know that these women do too. They also don't want to go work a 9 to 5. And so I've intentionally aligned myself with other people just like me, who want to live the lifestyle that I'm living and who are growing their businesses alongside Mindful Goods. So we are very aligned in that aspect. And in fact, our creative directors stay with us a very long time, even though they have grown their businesses and they've left their full-time jobs, and they just love picking up work with really interesting brands that come to us and helping them succeed on Amazon.
And it sounds like it's because at the end of the day, you care about the relationship. You don't necessarily care. Like, I've been at companies where they didn't allow me to do anything previously, like doing my own thing or whatever it may be, because they thought they owned by them teaching me certain things about Amazon, that they owned me. They owned that knowledge, and I could not take that knowledge and go anywhere else with it. But then at that point, it becomes selfish. Like, that means you had the intention of teaching me just to become your slave and work for you and then only you. And life doesn't work like that. And what ended up happening, I ended up leaving because of that dynamic. But if they would have said, hey, Victor, yeah, you can go and do that, and I just want to keep that relationship, I would have constantly I would have stayed with them, kept sending them business at the end of the day, and it would have made so much more long term. And they were so scared of me, like, potentially taking a client or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, it's all about the relationship. You're going to have those long-term A players in there that you're going to be building that long-term relationship with. And that's so much more important than any other client that you could lose, like, short-term. Like, these are all like short-term financial decisions. And at the end of the day, it's all about the long-term relationships. It's all that matters. That is all that matters at the end of the day, is the long-term relationships you have.
I agree with that. I think most of the creatives that we work with, they're so killer at what they do. They have no interest in opening up their own Amazon shop. That's just not what they do, right? Like, the women that we work with, we're starting this offboarding email, right? So when clients finish working with Mindful Goods, they're going to get an email that says, like, here's the creative directors on our team. This is the one you worked with, but here's little mini offers from every single one of them. And those offers are going to be in their specialty, right? We know that most brands need packaging. They need help with social media. They need help with email marketing. They need help with all these things. Our team does that. We don't do it at Mindful Goods, but you can absolutely work with these women that you already loved working with. You already got a taste of working with us. Now go help them in their businesses, right? So we're going to kind of keep it in the family that way.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's almost like a pure like relationship standpoint. Like, hey, if it helps the client, it helps you. Like, it's all over a good Like, I'm a
I mean,
huge believer in
most
karma.
clients that work with us, they're asking us at the end of a project, like, hey, can you do some more content for our social media? Hey, can you update our website? Hey, can you do this? We would love to, but in order for us to be the best at what we do, which is content on Amazon, we have to stay focused on content, with content on Amazon. But these other women, they have businesses doing packaging, doing website refreshes, doing these other things, and they work with Mindful Goods and they're happy to support you. So why would I not promote them as well and help them grow their businesses through the clients that already love what we're doing anyway? So it's just kind of like a win-win for everyone. And that's kind of the way that I approach it. I think one of the things, like, to go back to what you were saying about like feeling like a slave in that sense of like being owned by a company, that is like a feeling for me. Like, I cannot stand that feeling. If I feel that way when I'm working with even a client or working with anybody, then I don't want any part of it. I just like,
Yeah.
I want to do what I'm naturally suited to do and what gift I was brought into this world to be doing. And that's what it is right now.
Yeah.
I always felt like this weird feeling when I worked for other companies. I had to like ask for permission to take time off or to like go on vacation. I just think that's like the most mind-boggling concept on this earth, is like the fact that a human being has to like ask another human being for permission to go do something they want to do in their life. Like, no, like I just don't get it. No.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm a huge believer in karma as well. Like, good karma, like good and bad karma, but the feeling that, hey, when you do a lot of good things and provide a lot of value to other people, at the end of the day, it somehow is going to come back to you in some crazy
totally.
way. And it's always a
1,000%.
crazy way. It's always this big bouncy ball of like this person, like, and then it randomly somehow comes back to you.
Yep.
And like, I'm a big believer in that. So like, that's why I try to provide so much value at the end of the day, is because of that. Like, putting good into the universe, good somehow weirdly comes back.
Totally.
So yeah. And that's another reason why I don't sell. Like, I hardly ever sell. I just basically add value I care about the relationship. I don't care about the short-term financial gain about it. All I care, I'm going to provide as much value to you at the end of the day. And if you become a client, cool. If you don't, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, my goal is just to add as much value at the end of the day. I'm a huge believer about that.
I love that. This guy has value in my day.
Yes. So going into like on the like 3 steps, like the buy now method, that I'd love for you to kind of go in on Amazon and really like discuss like the top content strategies on what are the best ways to kind of get found on Amazon SEO wise. What are the best methods of like increasing conversion rate? I'd love for you to go through your 3-step optimization path too. I'd love for you to kind of dive into the listing optimization side.
Let's do it. So I will preface this by saying this is a distilled 3-step process that I'll break down to make it super simple. It came from this like long checklist of all the little itty bitty things you can do to optimize your product page. And that you can actually download on my website at mindfulgoods.co. But since then, we've kind of tried to figure out what is the 3-step process so that we can just make it so simple for people, because I noticed the language that we use and the process that we explain can oftentimes be all over the place and confusing for most people to understand. So the really simple way to think about this is a funnel, right? So gurus like to throw around the term funnel. It can be really confusing, but if you think of a funnel, there's usually 3 stages. It starts wider, it gets smaller. And that's exactly what happens as people enter Amazon and they search for a product, right? A lot of people are searching for the product. You see the search results, and a smaller percentage of those will click on a listing to go into that listing. And then an even smaller percentage at the bottom are actually going to buy once they're inside your listing. So we built our 3-step process around the goals at each stage of the funnel, right? So the first stage, awareness. How are we getting found? How are we showing up more for people in those search results? That's where the SEO comes in, right? The second stage is how do we get people to click on our listing instead of all of these other distracting ones around us, our competitors, right? So that's where we focus on optimizing your main image, which I think is the key and the lowest hanging fruit that most brands are still not doing. And I will like argue that to the death for probably at least a few more years. And then the final stage is once we've gotten all these shoppers to find you, click into your listing. How do you get them to buy? How do you get them to convert, right? And that's with a series of different things, but it's mostly compelling copy and persuasive language. So it's understanding who your ideal target audience is, what questions they have, and making sure you're addressing that first and foremost, and then differentiating. So each one of those steps can be so intensely broken down. I have a mini course breaking down each step of this, but that's essentially what our team follows every single time. It's that 3-step format. And we break out in our process at Mindful Goods, we break out main image into its own piece of a project. Every project that we touch, we're split testing main images. We're ideating main images. We're like really trying to push the envelope on what can we do? Like, let's look at the search results. What can we do to stand out? What can we do to add eye candy? Can we tweak the angle a little bit? Can we add a slight shadow? Can we add a hard shadow? Can we add a post edit? Can we add a badge on top of the packaging? Like, what else can we do to really get some clicks here?
Just curious, what are some of like the biggest increases that you've been seeing on main images? Because I like for supplement clients, they might put like the powder or pills like on the side. I've seen that as an optimization. Like outside the bottle, like as a little pile next to it.
I mean, they should all be doing that.
Yeah, like definitely. What have you seen? What have you seen that has worked the best? I assume you use things like PickFu. I would assume before that, either that or you use the experiments, Amazon experiments.
Yeah, that's
like,
a great point.
What are some of the best practices when it comes to main images?
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. So in terms of testing, there's 2 different types of testing. One is PickFu. PickFu is what we use for fast iteration type testing, quantitative and qualitative data around testing, and getting the data that we need fast. So let's say your team comes up with a couple different ideas for a main image. You mock it up really fast in Canva or whatever, and you put the 2 options on PickFu. Within an hour, you're going to get 50 Amazon shoppers, maybe even within your category, who have a pet, let's say, and they will tell you very concretely, I chose this image because I like the fact that the doggy teepee has a little chalkboard on top of it. And if you get 15 people saying the same thing, you're like, awesome, let's enhance that a little bit since people really love the chalkboard thing. Or let's say they're buying a snack bar and you get 15 questions of people, of your 50 respondents asking the same question, like, is it vegan? I'm not really sure. I can't really tell. Right? Then you need to enhance the post-edit vegan on the packaging so people can read it from search, right? So you can create another iteration, even do another split test in PickFu. That is still not Amazon data, right? So we've always used PickFu from day one as a very iterative way to gather data from outside of Amazon and make our images as best they can be, but we still always advise clients test it, and up until Amazon experiments, it's been a very manual pull of data, which is really unfortunate. But I'm so happy with Amazon experiments because now everyone has access to this free tool where you can upload these crazy, awesome images that we're making and test it and prove our work that it's working, And so this is the thing that I'm like pushing every brand to do right now is to be taking the images that we're creating, testing them in Amazon experiments, because that experiment within 4 to 10 weeks, it's a little bit of hurry up and wait. It's kind of a bummer to wait that long, but it's so worth it when Amazon is giving you concrete data that says this one image that you changed will bring you $50,000 on average over the next 12 months. Or in a best case scenario, it'll bring you $150,000. I definitely want to make sure that I keep that winning image, right? So that's the kind of thing that I think every brand should be testing all the time. You should have like a calendar of these elements: title, main image, A+ content. Those are the 3 Amazon experiments that you're able to run right now. And you should just be cycling through them to try to beat your content every time, because, you're going to make your money back 20 times over. So why would you not be always testing your content?
100%. So you're speaking my language, because I am religious about testing. I am a very important, like, I love testing. I love the psychology. I got into marketing because I love the psychology of like having pills
Mhm.
outside the bottle, having a hard shadow, having a soft shadow. Like, I
Yeah.
love those concepts because the human brain is going to pick certain things based off previous patterns that we have chosen, and you're testing that to see which one it brings in the most based off of having a chalkboard or not, or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. So what have you seen generally of across most of your clients? Is it having a shadow? Is it not having a shadow? Is it um making it where like you have some type of banner on like on the bottle? Like what are some best practices you've been using in your main images?
Oh man, it's all across the board. It's very product specific. So like we get thrown the craziest products. Right now we're working on a dog toy, and
Mhm.
trying to decide if I'm going to share this or not and how I'm going to share it. Okay, I'll share. It's a dog toy, right? And so like if you just look at the dog toy on the screen, it just looks like a rubber black donut. Like it doesn't look like
Okay.
anything special. And so like most people when they're buying things for their dog, I know this because I'm a dog owner, they want to see if it is the right size for their dog, how it fits in their mouth, if it's going to be destroyed or not, that sort of thing. They have all these questions. But the other thing is like if you look at your competitors within search, like how do you differentiate your product from the competitors? Well, everyone else is just showing like a tiny little dog in the corner with the toy in the mouth. Yes, okay, like here's the big toy in the product image, and then here's the little dog in the corner. Like, what if we flip that and just do the opposite of what everyone else is doing, and we just blow up the dog's head so like the dog's head is like literally like this in the main image, and the dog has the toy in his mouth, and he's like, and like that's the kind of thing that really separates you from the pack. So you have to be thinking outside the box all the time. There's not going to be one set of rules that applies to every product. Um, I will say some like really interesting things that we've seen is a lot of brands have like killer awards that they've won, and it comes with like a little badge that looks like a gold emblem or something like that.
Mhm.
That can work in baby, that can work in toys, especially if you're putting it on top of your product packaging as a post edit, even though it's not technically on the packaging when the customer gets it. It's
Yeah.
something that builds trust so much with the shopper, especially when they're buying in those categories. And I've actually seen it in CPG as well with like award-winning like premium gourmet goods. So if
Mhm.
you can
Yeah.
add that badge on there, you'll see a lift in conversion in click-through rate for sure. So it's thinking through all of that. Like one example I always like to share is with Yes Bar. We did their listings head to toe. They come back to us for refreshes all the time, and one thing we did with their main image is we told them like just isolate this and don't touch anything else, just so we can like really validate some of the stuff that we're doing here, right? Because we did so many, we did post edits, angles, slight shadow, render, like close-ups of the actual snack stacked up, like lots of different elements all tied together, and removing white space that looks as big as possible. And so we just want to see, okay, like how does it perform? Within 2 weeks, they had an increase by 11.8% in click-through traffic.
Wow. That's awesome.
This stuff is killer. Like it works,
Yeah.
and that's why I say it's the lowest hanging fruit for most brands. Like have fun with it, test it. Like there's so many cool things you could be doing with your main image, but so many brands are just like, no, my product looks good. I have it like on a white background. It's like it's perfect for Amazon standards. Sure, it's fine. It just could be so much better. It could really get the clicks. That's the whole goal of that one step in the funnel.
That's really interesting. Yeah. What does that testing process look like? Do you usually go through like testing two main images, like starting out, and then once you test those two, like for the next 2 weeks, and then you go to a next main image? Like if someone was working with you, like how many iterations do you go through to like? Obviously, you can never have a fully optimized listing. I know that for sure. But how
Yeah.
many iterations do you go through to like, do you go through 3 iterations of the main images? How does that work really?
We're just giving 2 options of everything. So we give 2 options of title, 2 options of main image, and A+ content with and without an SEO module. And the idea is that you test everything against your baseline, right? Like whatever's most brands that are already live on Amazon, they have a set of content that they started with. 50% of brands that come to us are coming to us for a refresh. 50% are net new to Amazon. So if you're net new and you don't have anything on Amazon, I would recommend just, uploading a baseline of content and then using each of the options we give you as your variables for your split test. The split test, unfortunately, you have to wait 4 to 10 weeks. So I would minimum wait that 4 weeks so you get good data. If you can, sit on your hands a little bit longer, I would, because you'll get cleaner data the longer you wait. So I think it's worth waiting. It's just unfortunate that you have to wait that long, but I think it's worth waiting because it's Amazon data, so Amazon is going to tell you very concretely what works. So it's worth waiting. Yeah. And then in terms of the PICFU, like the sky's the limit on that, like if you're ideating and you're still learning in your iterations from the respondents, like it doesn't really take that much to just read the comments and iterate again and keep spitting up new versions until you're ultimately happy and you realize you're getting the best responses, right? So what we do in our process is we always do at least one split test just to understand, is one clearly winning? Like that's the ultimate goal, is like we have these, what we think are two really unique options. Is one clearly winning? If we can get one to clearly win, great. If we can apply learnings and get one to clearly win, even better. So it's like taking the winning one, and that's the one we'd want to test against whatever content you have right now on Amazon and validate that what we're doing is paying off.
What'd be really cool would be doing a case study that, like, this would be a really good lead gen strategy for you. Is basically doing a case study saying, hey, here's what we did with image 1, image 2, and this is what we learned by, and this increased it by 50% of sales. And if you just put like any number figure, I bet you could get any business, like off of that case study. If you just like did like constant case studies, that would kill it on LinkedIn. So just an idea. That's what I would be doing. I would just be scaling out case studies on that, because that sounds like it'd be really, really neat. And just fascinating.
I actually might do that with my own brand. I feel like a lot of brands that we work with are a little hesitant to share their wins.
True.
Because they don't want their competition copying their exact strategy. So I get that. Like we helped one of the top sellers that in a particular niche where he created the niche, right? And so he's already a top seller, and his improvement was like less than 1%. But that less than 1% for that one product is going to increase revenue by $150,000. For one main image change. One main image change, like. That's killer. So if you can do that across, your whole catalog, and he's got a really large catalog, you're talking about millions of dollars at the end of the day off of just refreshing your content, always testing your content.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really cool. Is there anything else before we wrap up that you want to make sure that you communicate that's been top of mind lately? Whether if it's going into Q4, whether if it's Prime Day number 2, like, is there anything else that you want to make sure we cover today?
Don't change your content in December. Now is the time, people, to be changing your content. You should have done it already, and you should be doing it up until November, so that if anything happens when you do change it, you can revert back if you need to. We recommend changing anything in December unless you're net new and you have nothing to lose. So just think about it that way, that this stuff should be getting done right now. Like this is crunch time, getting into the holiday time. So and then you're looking at January. The only brands actually that I recommend working on this in December is brands that see a lift in sales in January, which are like the CPG Better For You products. They get a big push in January, so they need to be optimizing in December.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. Like seasonality, always optimize before seasonality, because Q4 doesn't always indicate increase in sales. Yeah, that's smart.
And January is the month where everyone's back in the gym, so they want to buy all those healthy snacks.
For at least the first month, at least. Hopefully.
So that's that. And then you can, if you go to launchreadylistings.co, you can get the full like training on the 3-step buy now method. And within there, we have options to book a call with us, option to get the mini course. So you can check all of that out at launchreadylistings.co.
Cool. And how else can they find you? On LinkedIn, Is there anything else, other platforms you're on?
I'm on the TikTok now.
You're on the TikTok? I'm on the TikTok too. I post 3 times a day on TikTok.
I've
So
I've been trying to keep up with 3 times a day. I've been trying to keep. I'm doing a 30-day series right now on building a killer product page that converts. So if
okay.
you're on TikTok, my TikTok is Mindful Goods. I think it's Mindful Goods Co. And then we're the same on Instagram, and Mindful Goods Co. on Facebook too.
There you go. Now audience, you have a reason to download TikTok. There you go.
There you go.
Follow Mindful Goods. That's awesome. Cool. Daniela, thank you so much for joining. And audience, thank you so much for listening as well. And we will